want you to know. Learn why on the Rico Dukes They Fear Truth show as he explores civil rights laws, constitutional provisions, political news, and more. Finding solutions starts with knowing the truth, the real truth. Uncover the truth for yourself on the Rico Dukes They Fear Truth show. That's the Rico Dukes They Fear Truth show. Available on the iHeartRadio app and wherever you listen to podcasts. Open your ears, open your eyes. It's time to learn what's really happening on the Rico Dukes They Fear Truth show.
We would stop. We would get out of the cars. We would walk up to the scene. Those who had rifles would carry them in the open, clearly visible.
We would stand at a distance where the police couldn't say they were interfering with their arrest or their detention of the individual, and make sure that there was no brutality.
We stood back with our weapons ready to throw down if necessary.
They would take the weapon and pass it across like this, and it would sweep right over the officer.
Modell shot and killed in South Fort Myers in 2016 after he drunkenly knocked on the wrong door. Modell's killer was never prosecuted by the state attorney's office. Wake News reporter Sydney Persing live at the Collier County Courthouse now. This is really a change of pace for Crump.
Hey, Chris, so he actually generally takes on even higher profile cases, ones with serious big-time national attention. Mr. Crump gets dozens of people approaching him a day, asking if he'll take on their cases. So I asked him today, how do you pick? He told me he only takes on cases that shake his conscience, and the Ryan Modell case sure did. Attorney Ben Crump has represented more than one household name. He rattles them off. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin. All were black. Ryan Modell was not. In Collier County Friday, Crump pointed that out, told me he wants to make something clear.
It doesn't matter about the color of your skin. Nobody wants to bury their children.
But Sandy Modell had to, and that's why Crump's taken on his case. In 2016, Ryan Modell drunkenly knocked on the wrong door, ended up leaving the property, and then was shot and killed a couple doors down. The state attorney's office did not file charges, saying stand your ground applied.
This is a murder case. We don't understand. We are baffled why this case isn't being prosecuted.
Sandy Modell doesn't understand either. His fight for a court date has not been easy, but he told me he will keep trying. For his son, killed just shy of his 33rd birthday, and for his wife, who died the year before.
I told that to Ben the first night we met. That at some point in time, I expect to see my wife and son again. And when I do, I expect to be able to explain to them how this got taken care of. And I was hoping he would be the man to help.
Whether you're a black parent, a Hispanic parent, Asian parent, white parent, Native parent, we all want our children to come home.
And Interestingly enough, Mr. Crump told me he and Sandy actually have more that makes them different than makes them the same. And it's not just the skin color. He told me they were raised differently, they have different political beliefs, and they actually have different opinions on stand your ground laws. But both men told me they have the most important thing in common, which is that they believe in justice and keeping innocent children alive. We reached out to a spokesperson from the state attorney's office. She told us they have no comment. Reporting live here in Collier County, Sydney Persing, Wink News. Now.
In March 4th of 1968, J. Edgar Hoover expanded COINTELPRO against black nationalist groups and other dissenting groups. In 1969, J. Edgar Hoover described the Black Panthers as the greatest threat to the internal security of this nation. By 1969, the Panthers and other allies had become the primary targets of COINTELPRO. The goals of the program were to prevent the unification of militant black nationalist groups and to weaken their leadership, as well as discredit to reduce their support and growth. The Internal Revenue Service would even support efforts to repress ideological organizations. The IRS established an activist organization committee in July of 1969 to collect basic intelligence gathering data on members of the Black Panther Party, organizations that did business with the Black Panther Party and other radical political organizations. The FBI supplied the IRS with names of individuals and organizations, and the IRS in turn supplied detailed personal financial information and also targeted these individuals with special enforcement of tax regulations. As FBI Director William Sullivan later testified, the Bureau did not differentiate between Soviet spies and suspected communists and the Black nationalist movement when deploying surveillance and neutralizing tactics.
Going on. There we y'all know I'm your host, Rico Duke, for They Feel True TV. I guess they trying to very hard not to have this show right here. Here's my Mr. Guest. He's been in the studio waiting up so patient for Mr. Mahel. Bring you on the line now. Chief Eagle Eye.
You're breaking up, sir.
So we should have everybody. How you doing, Mr. Mahel?
Rico, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you perfect.
You're cutting in and out on me. That's why I'm having trouble understanding you.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. First of all, introduce the people to yourself. Mr. Mardell, y'all introduce y'all to.
You're cutting out again. I apologize.
Hold on. Man, let me go out and come to you. Am I clear now?
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So, Mr. Mardell, introduce yourself to the people and to the people, give the people a little rundown about the incident of the night with Son Right Monday.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's good to meet you, Rico, and thank you for having me on the show. Um, on the night in question, my son was partying with friends at a pool in the complex he lived. And when it got late, probably about 2 in the morning, they've been celebrating an upcoming birthday. My son had a new job. So they've been celebrating a bunch of things. 2 in the morning, enough was enough. He went home. Unfortunately, the buildings all looked alike. They were just very similar monolithic buildings. He went to the right unit, but he went to the wrong building. He knocked on the door trying to get in, and he was told by this guy, Taylor, that you're at the wrong unit. Taylor claims there was an argument, but there's really nobody to corroborate it. Obviously, the only other person was my son. In any event, Taylor claims that my son left. He shut the door, he locked it. My son left. Taylor called the police. Police told him, stay put, stay in your house, safely behind a locked door. We're on our way. Instead, Taylor decided to take matters into his own hands. And what he did was he went back and he stayed in his house, but he went somewhere and found his gun. And it wasn't just a normal gun. The police were shocked at the gun later on. It was a 10mm with a laser sighting and a flashlight attachment. The police called it a hunting weapon, and it had an oversized clip. This guy would normally walk around the neighborhood during the middle of the day with this weapon and five or six extra clips. So he would normally walk around the neighborhood in the middle of the afternoon with 50 or 60 bullets. Just did. My son left the unit. He got his gun, and he went outside looking for him. That's not stand your ground. You can stand your ground here. You can't go stand your ground over there. That's pursuit. It's re-engagement and pursuit. So he went, looked for him, found him, confronted him, provoked him. When my son stood up, my son was seated 100 yards away from his house, 2 doors down, seated on the ground facing the other way. He was not a threat. This guy went out, pointed a gun at him, started yelling at him. When my son stood up, he said, I became afraid and I was in fear. That's what he shot and killed him.
So it basically started out, the incident basically started out something like the Amber incident I had in Dallas, Texas.
I'm losing you a little bit. I'm sorry. It started out with what?
It kind of, incident is kind of similar to the Amber incident that happened here in Dallas, Texas, when the officer went to a wrong apartment building and she killed her.
I'm losing every other word on you, so I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me? Hold on. Can you hear me?
No. I've lost audio and video.
Come on, you got to go out and come back in. Greetings to you, Mr. Sandy.
Good evening.
I'm Chief Eagle Eye, Minister of Defense.
Kyle?
Greetings to you.
Good evening to you as well. Is the problem on the studio side or on my side?
No, that's his studio side. Something.
Okay.
We'll be right back in.
Okay, good, because I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes they'll block the broadcast.
Really?
Yeah, they don't want this type of information to get out.
Well, years ago when people started talking about the lamestream media and hiding the truth, it sounded a little far-fetched, but what we've seen in the last couple of years is absolutely absurd. an administration trying to just stop free speech, trying to make the FBI tell Facebook what to permit and what not to permit,
Right.
redefining free speech. That's just such dangerous stuff. The fact that we have a media that is basically becoming the the communication arm of a certain party, the Democratic Party, that's very frightening. It's better when the media remain neutral, but that's not what they're doing.
Right. They're being very biased.
I gotta use it.
The bias is heavy, but some of it's nonsense. We have a president that just a couple of weeks ago decided to redefine a recession. For the last 100 years, a recession has been 2 quarters, consecutive quarters of negative growth. He's now decided that's no longer correct, and he's now got all the little, all his minions agreeing with him that's not a recession. It's different now. It's not. It's just absurd.
Yeah, they're moving into a new era, and it's more about control.
Absolutely.
So any type of everything now, they just shutting it down, and the people really don't see it coming. I mean,
well, I think some people do. Excuse me. The idea that the government would decide they determine what free speech is, and if they don't agree with you, your speech is misinformation, and you're a terrorist. That's absurd.
Most definitely. And I noticed that because I've made some YouTube videos, and when I went back on there, they just took them down. So, I mean, that's what it is. They even went back from years. It wasn't something recently. You talking about stuff that was back in 3, 4, 5 years ago. They just took it off.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
frightening. That's frightening.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. I didn't had to shut one device down. Oh man, I got to get that device fixed. They messed with that one. Oh Lord. I'm sorry about the technical difficulty, y'all. Mr. Ryan, I read in the article in regards to your son, and I was gonna ask you was saying about you said that the murder was like it was political, or you were saying that they was covering it up. It was political.
It's a little worse than that. The police investigated the crime twice, and they called it murder. But there was an election going on, and the woman that was running for state attorney was the chief deputy in the state attorney's office. She was running for state attorney, and she wanted the NRA endorsement. So she put out a bunch of false facts about this. She called this a burglary and said that a Marine was defending his home, all kinds of other nonsense, which wasn't true. And she was saying that 8, 9, 10 months after everybody knew it wasn't true. She's on film doing it. But she wanted an NRA endorsement, and she got it. And the NRA endorsement got her voters that were about the margin of her victory. So it worked for her, but that's why she didn't want to prosecute it. My attorneys had asked her, if you're not going to prosecute it, put it in front of a grand jury. Let's find out what the facts are. That's an investigator's best tool. Run the case in front of 12 people and see what they think. She refused to do that. She claims it stands your ground. I've had attorneys, prosecutors, former state attorneys, journalists, experienced journalists, all look at this. Everyone sees a murder. And whenever she's questioned, how do you call this stand your ground? You had re-engagement. You're not allowed to do that. It has to be one continuous action. You had pursuit. That means you're the aggressor. You had provocation, again, the aggressor. So with all those things involved, how do you explain this as stand your ground? And her answer is no comment. She's never been able to explain it.
Because how can you explain if your son went to the house once he realized it was the wrong house? He left. Mr. Taylor went back in his house and locked the door. Your son was 2 doors down, 2 houses down, and didn't get shot. That means that Mr. Taylor had to come outside of his house and go down 2 doors to be able to do that, or stand outside of his yard and shoot your son 2 doors down, or 2 houses down.
No, he went and pursued him 100 yards. He found him 100 yards away. He was nowhere near his home at the time. When the police said to him, "What were you doing?" He said, "I was trying to protect my wife." And they said, "You left the door open, you left her alone, and you went 100 yards down the street. How are you protecting her?" And he had no answer for that.
Is Mr. Taylor politically connected?
No. The crime was an opportunity for the state attorney candidate to appease the NRA, and that's what she did. But no one has ever gotten an explanation from her on how this. And there's a 30-year journalist for one of the major networks that said to me, "I've never seen a state attorney that can't explain a charging decision. It's very simple. She can't do it. You can't explain something that's not true."
So are you basically saying that the NRA was sponsoring her campaign for her reelection, and that was something that she had to do for them to
Well,
be
she
reelected?
attracted their attention with that. They gave her high grades and they endorsed her because she was such an ardent supporter of Stand Your Ground. But it doesn't meet any of the Stand Your Ground tests. There's nothing about it that stands your ground. She can't explain it, and she refuses to ever answer any questions. Not for the family, not for our family, not for law enforcement, not for journalists. She just refuses to. And the problem is, she's a Republican. And what I've asked, and I met with Governor DeSantis when he was a candidate, and I told him about the case, and he said, yeah, it should be moved. I just want the case moved to a new judicial circuit for an honest review. But she's a Republican, and he will not sanction Republicans. He has removed Democrat office holders in Florida all the time. Very little provocation. But he won't remove her, and he won't move the case. And as a result, she just sits on it, and it languishes. And there's a murderer walking free. And if I tell you about the murderer, he's in the book. He's he's sociopathic. He's a racist. When he found out, my attorney was Ben Crump, who happens to be a black attorney. When he found out who my attorney was, he started sending me racist emails and stuff along that line. The guy he has sent me text messages taunting my family. He has sent text messages bragging about what he did. The guy's a horrible creature, and he's a racist in the bargain. So he's just a horrible piece of work.
You still have those text messages about what he did?
They're in my book.
Okay, perfect.
Some of them are in the book. Chapter 6.
Perfect. I also read in there, you said that you think the prosecutor was having a vendetta towards you because you put up billboard signs on her.
Absolutely.
What kind of billboard signs did you put up on her?
I'll send you copies of those, but basically it was during the election, and I put up billboards saying that she's a murderer's best friend.
I can understand that. Especially when
I had them up for a month. They were electronic, so I changed them every week, but the theme stayed the same.
That's how you that's how you fight back.
Well,
you fight back with any means, because I'm firsthand. I can tell you that this system is crooked and evil. They murdered my pops. They tried to assassinate me, shot me 9 times, left 23 gunshot holes in me, labeled me deceased for 3 years. I just was declared that I wasn't deceased last year. They laid me deceased for 3 years, froze all my accounts, everything. So I understand firsthand that this system is evil and crooked, and it just a tremendous dirty system. So I understand it. I understand how the political games go.
I believe you do. And as I told you in our first exchange, I've struggled with this for 6.5 years. I'm amazed that you've had to deal with it most of your life. So it's been with you longer. I put up the billboards. Later on, she'd already refused to file charges, but when they did a second investigation, had even more evidence, she dug in further, and she complained that one of the reasons she wasn't going to file charges was because of my campaigning against her. Now, I think we all understand as state attorney.
So she stated that to you. That's why she wasn't going to file charges, because of campaigning.
Not to me. She has said it to other people.
Okay.
She has said it to other people, and as the state attorney, it's her job to enforce the law. It's not her job to decide whether she likes the victim's father.
And you're so correct.
I can do whatever I want. She should still be prosecuting a murderer. She's not. She's a vindictive witch.
I can understand that.
She came to me through a third party, worried about me supporting a candidate opposing her, and made it clear in exchange for giving her some information on campaign stuff, she would go forward and indict. She got provided stuff. She sent an email on her letterhead to the in-between, the go-between, and then later just reneged on everything. The letter to the go-between is in the book.
It's in the who?
It's in the book I wrote. It's in somewhere.
Oh, it's in the book. It's in the book.
Yep.
So pretty much all the evidence is in the book. Pretty much like my story is all in the book. Pretty much.
Why would you hold back?
Exactly.
And I didn't.
They said I read in there. It said David Lee Beard. He was a detective lieutenant, and he was saying that was a murder, and he was trying to figure out why she hadn't pressed the charges for the murder charge yet.
That's correct.
So it's detectives. You have detectives, lawyers, police officers, private detective, all are saying that it's a murder charge, but she refused to press the charges on.
Correct. Mark O'Mara is considered an expert in Florida on stand your ground. He told them for a year it's not a stand your ground case. Ben Crump, for several years, told them it's not a stand your ground case. These are men that are fairly experienced with it. And Ben's issue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And why do you feel that the NRA, which is the Rifle Association, why do you feel that that plays a part in her decision? Like, I can understand them sponsoring her, but do you feel that that will lead to, they feel that your case will lead to a stricter gun law or something of that nature there?
Well, I think they're very protective of stand your ground. I don't have a problem with stand your ground per se. This is not a stand your ground case. This is a murder case. It has nothing to do with stand your ground. It's not vehicular homicide either. It's just murder. So they're very protective of stand your ground. I have not had an issue with stand your ground properly applied, but a prosecutor has the obligation to make the defense bring up stand your ground in front of a judge and let a judge determine in a pretrial hearing whether or not that's even relevant. But you can't, as a prosecutor, just say, well, they're probably going to say stand your ground, so we'll just let them walk out and give them a hall pass on murder. That's what she did.
So did he ever go to court for it, or they just ruled it self-defense from the spot?
The police called it murder. The state attorney, Amira Fox, she said, no, it's just stand your ground. And when anybody asked, how is that possible? Ben has asked, Mark O'Mara has asked, journalists, former state attorneys, former prosecutors, they've all asked, and no one's ever gotten an answer out of her.
So he was never put in cuffs for killing someone that was over 100 yards away from him, that had no weapon, and that didn't cause them any property damage, didn't cause them any harm. It was. Nope. So what did Governor DeSantis have to say about this?
Depends. When he was a candidate, I met with him personally, and he agreed. And what the governor told me, and this is almost a verbatim quote, when local government doesn't act, the governor, when they fail to act, the governor has both the obligation and the authority to step in and take action. He agreed with me the case should be moved. We talked throughout the campaign on several occasions because I had his cell number. I still have his cell number. It just went dead the day after the election. But he was fine with moving the case. Then he's gotten into office. Now he wants to be president. I think he wants to keep the NRA happy, and he just doesn't return calls. I've had a petition on his desk for over 3 years. He doesn't respond to it. If a journalist calls in and says, what's the status on the petition? All the governor's staff ever says is it's still under review. It's been under review for over 3.5 years.
So what do you think, besides this interview, what do you think that by us having our own federal agency, how do you feel by us having our own federal agency, They Feel Truth Federal Government of America, how do you feel that we may be able to assist you outside of just this interview?
Well,
or how would you like us to try to assist you?
Well, for one thing, I'm on the show, and that's something I'm grateful for. I get to tell your listeners about an injustice, a miscarriage of justice. Additionally, stand your ground and the misapplication of stand your ground is a problem for people of color. Ben says it disproportionately affects people of color. When we first met, he told me he wasn't going to take my case at first. And he told me, he said, I generally take clients that are of color. And I said, you've got the wrong color, though. You're talking about black and white. But when you talk about Trayvon Martin, when you talk about Marquise McLaughlin, when you talk about my son, they all bled red. And that's the only color their parents cared about, any of those parents. Marquise's parents, Trayvon's parents, my son's father, all we care about is that they bled red. There were no other colors in my mind that day. And there aren't anymore, and there still aren't. So it disproportionately affects people of color. It's a law that's nebulous. I don't have a problem with stand your ground per se, but these are things Ben has told me. Your help comes in, number one, with giving me an audience like this and allow it to speak.
Because we're on a lot of platforms, right? We're on a lot of different platforms right now.
I'm hoping so. And what I'd like to see are protests. I'd like to see protests at Fort Myers because I'd like to see some press generated. I'd like to see protests in Tallahassee because DeSantis is running for re-election right now. Then he wants to run for president. And if this becomes a big issue, he'll have to address it. If we don't make it a big issue, he'll just keep ignoring it for another 3.5 years. But if we do make it an issue with protests, with platform, social media, all kinds of different things, that helps me enormously because it gives me a team rather than just me as one man fighting a large system, which I think you know about.
That's the same line that I was thinking of, line that it gives us both a chance with your story and my story combined together, and then with us having our own federal agents, we can get a lot of things done. And we'll love to unite and help you as much as that we possibly can to bring justice to your son and bring closure to you as well as reform this broken system. The system is not broken, it's those that are in power in the system that are broken.
Yeah.
So we would love to what I want to ask you something as well. What have Ben Crump what did he do with the Silver case?
The civil case was before I hired Ben. And the problem was that's why I was getting threatening texts from the murderer. He was sending threatening texts because he didn't like the civil case. This was never about money for me. The only reason we filed the civil case was it was over 2 years or close to 2 years beyond the crime, and the statute was running on it. So we filed it. We didn't even notify him for another 90 days because you can do that. So it was close to 2.25 years before we actually filed anything. The civil case, the police had not come to the murder conclusion yet. They weren't willing to put it in writing. So the civil case languished for a while. And then it eventually just got resolved. There were countersuits. The murderer claimed defamation of character because I put him up on the billboard. I didn't put him on the billboard. I said she was a friend to murderers. He claimed by extension that was accusing him. It was god awful that the system allowed him to walk away from murder and then complain about being defamed. So all of that stuff went away before Ben was involved. Ben just came on board to help with the criminal side.
Okay. Well, did he have any luck on the criminal side? Did he have any good outcome?
No. I mean, he's not a fan favorite of the current administration, and neither are they. I think rather than work with Ben, I think DeSantis's attitude, he just doesn't need him. So DeSantis wasn't taking phone calls. We met with the governor's general counsel once, and the general counsel was trying to get the state attorney to release the case so we could put it in a different jurisdiction, and she wouldn't. And they didn't want to tangle with it. So they stalled. COVID hit, and we never heard back from them. Same thing with the petition on his desk. Same thing with letters that I've written, phone calls, and messages I've left. They have an appointment system that's electronic. I have completed on multiple occasions, never heard back from their office.
Well, here at Dayfield Truth Federal Government of America, we have the power to arrest. We are a legal American federal agency. Our corporate ID number, Don's number, is 118-692-752. We are an American federal government. We have the power to arrest. We have cars that are registered to Dayfield Truth Federal Government. All our phones are Dayfield Truth Federal Government. So we have tax EIN numbers. We've just been placed into the system of for unemployment, for us to be able to give our employers unemployment. We're there. So we have the power to arrest. So if we can help you out very, very major, but we'll need help from you as well, in due to the fact that you in Florida, to being able to find those officers that validate that it's a murder, that it was a murder, and we can find those documents, put those documents, that would be enough for us to go and arrest Officer Taylor. I'm also an attorney. I'm the chief attorney of Dayfield Trump, federal government of America. We
Well,
just want
I'll
a case.
provide you, obviously, I'll provide you with any information that you need. The murderer now lives, actually, one of the texts he sent me, he includes his address. So his address, his name and address is in the book.
Okay. Minister of Defense, Conrad. Brother Kai, you there? Well, he'll come in at some point in time. But yeah, I'm gonna have my Minister of Defense get in contact with you in regards to everything, so we can get all the information, and we'll go from there. We'd like also for you, if you could set up a path with a meeting with Ben Crump and Dayfield Truth, my Minister of Defense, Ben Crump, and you yourself. We can all get together and we can plan how we're going to go about doing this right here and things of that nature right there. So we'll dot all our I's and cross all our T's.
I'm in here with you.
You here, Conrad? I'm gonna give you Mr. Modell's number and contact information. I want you to get all the information that we need to go ahead to try to get everything together. He's gonna give y'all information to be able to contact with Ben Crump, or he's gonna actually set it up for Ben Crump.
I don't know if I can do that. I've spoke with Ben recently. Ben was the reason I wrote the book. Ben asked me to write the book. The problem is, once I wrote it, he read a rough draft of, I don't know, half, 3/4 of it this summer. And he said, you're going to get sued doing this. He said, the book is too rough. He said, I can't be a part of it. We were going to do a press conference together. He said, I can't represent you with this book. He said, they're going to sue you and they're going to sue me. And I said, Ben, I don't care. I'll take the lawsuits. And he said, well, I said, I don't run from a fight. And he said, neither do I, but they're going to sue me. And so Ben stepped back. I have sent him a copy of the book. I haven't talked to him in probably 45, 60 days. I don't know if he'll go along with the meeting. I don't know what his position is at this point.
Why would he say why would he say that they'll sue you? Because of the fact that it was the case went a different way?
No, they excuse me. In the book, I make very serious allegations of corruption, and I document them because the book was well researched and it was well sourced. But I make accusations against the governor, against the former Attorney General Pam Bondi, against the current Attorney General Ashley Moody, against the former state attorney in Fort Myers, Steve Russell, against the current state attorney in Fort Myers, who is Amira Fox. And I also make statements against the murderer himself. So Ben believed that some or all of these people would file lawsuits. That hasn't been the case, by the way, but I was willing to take that on, and he didn't want to buy into that. So he believed there would be lawsuits coming. Now, the book's been up on Amazon for about 5 weeks. There have been no lawsuits. That doesn't mean there never will be any, but as we speak, there have been none.
Well, that's very interesting. I can't wait to read it, because I'm pretty sure you really exposed a lot, and people need to learn, because I'm sure that's going on in a lot of towns and a lot of cities around us all over the United States. So I'm just man, I'm humbled that you're sharing this story with us, and we give our condolences to you.
I appreciate that.
Most definitely, and we do all we can to help you whatever you got going through right now, no doubt about it. So let's get.
And I heard you say that you was getting threatening letters and things of that nature right there. We also provide security services as well. We provide federal security services.
Okay. Kyle, can I get your email address? Because I can send a copy of the book to you momentarily.
It's ISH. No, I take that back. Send it to theyfeartruth.gov.
Hold on.
Theyfeartruth.gov @gmail.com.
I also have a very interesting question, Mr. Modell.
Sure.
Big Crump, you stated that Big Crump, he was going to working the criminal part for it.
Right.
Exactly what was he planning to do if he read the book and then got afraid, but he was supposed to been working the criminal part of it before that? What
Well,
exactly was he supposed to be doing criminal wise?
well, he'd been working with the governor's office or trying to do that. He'd done press conferences. We'd met with the governor's general counsel. I'm sure he was in contact with the state attorney's office. So he had made inquiries, but he was coming up against a wall. And then he suggested I write a book. He suggested it last year, and I kind of delayed it. I didn't really want to do it. It's tough writing a book, tougher still if it happens to be the topic is the murder of your child. So it was not something I wanted to do, and it wasn't something that I undertook lightly. And then when I got it almost done, I thought it was going to be done in July, by July 1st, but it involved more research than I realized, and so I decided to go with quality over speed. So I had to live with delays because I was making the book better and stronger. I was only going to do this once, and I wanted to get it right. So that delayed things. But in July, I'd gotten Ben a copy of, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 chapters. He came back. He said they're gonna sue you and they're gonna sue me. And I said, well, I'll take that on.
Did he ever, within his time of working on the criminal part for the case for you, did he ever do any form of investigation to see was there any doorbell cameras that might have actually captured the actual shooting, the actual incident between your son and Mr. Taylor?
I don't know that he did. I suspect the police would have done that if there was, but they were nowhere near a house at the time. My son, when he first knocked on the wrong door, they opened the door and he was standing there. The guy said, "Get out of here," or whatever he said. He slammed the door on my son's foot. My son's foot was bleeding badly. So he left and he was 2 doors down in a neighbor's yard, just using the hose to wash the blood off of his foot, facing in the other direction. And that's when this guy, Taylor, got his gun, came out of the house, went looking for him, re-engagement, pursuit, and then he found him and he provoked him, and started yelling at him, pointed the gun at him. It's felony assault in Florida to point a gun at somebody that's not a threat.
Mm-hmm.
He, under deposition, said that's when I hit him with the flashlight and the gun, because the flashlight was on the gun. He knew the kid that Ryan was intoxicated. They'd already told that to the police, so he knew that he was intoxicated. And instead of just staying in his house, letting the professionals handle it, he caused a problem. And you can't do that with stand your ground. You cannot.
It's called provoking. It's a provoking law.
Yeah.
It's called provoking, which means to basically say something to make somebody angry or arouse them to be able to get a reaction from them from what you basically said to them or did to them. It's called a provoking law.
That's
exactly
what it is. And that's exactly what he did. So what he's claiming is stand your ground is you don't have to retreat. I get that one. I can stay right here and take action. That's not what he did. He was safely behind a door. First interaction, whatever it was over. He was safely behind a locked door with the police coming, and they told him to stay in. Instead, got his gun, went outside. That's re-engagement. That's pursuit, and that's provocation. How on earth can that be stand your ground?
So how long, I think her name is, her correct name is Amira Fox. Am I saying it correct?
You are.
So how long has she been a district attorney for Florida?
Well, she was running for district attorney at the time this occurred. She won in the 2018 election. She won office. So she became the state attorney in 2018. But she was running the office for the previous years as deputy chief. So she was the reason it didn't get prosecuted. She's up for re-election probably next month, and I don't think she has any opposition. So she's been the state attorney for 4 years, but she was in that office for 10 years before that.
Okay. So she's currently still in office at the position now.
She is, and in chapter 3 of the book, I list all of her negligence, both as a prosecutor for the state attorney's office, and then when she was in private practice, defending child molesters. She's just a horrible individual. but I cover all of her stuff in chapter 3.
My agency will contact her department tomorrow morning, and I will give you word on what I found out of if I heard anything or they even in regards to want to speak to me. So I'll start that off tomorrow so we can start building a trail on them. So when we do come down the way that we're going to come down, well, hey, look, we contacted y'all failed to contact, so we know what the victim father is going through, so we get a lot of things done anyway, sir. We got a lot of things done.
That's pretty exciting news. For me, that's pretty exciting. I've been, as you know,
Kyle,
I've been fighting this battle alone for a number of years, and it's an open wound. It's bad enough to bury a child, but then to have the government tell you it doesn't matter and we're going to ignore it because it's not convenient. It bites very badly.
It's hard to fight an entire system that's corrupt with so much evil, and all the ones that's corrupt with this evil, they're in a powerful position. So when it's one person fighting it's hard. You'll really never get anywhere. But when it's a bunch of people fighting for the same cause.
Florida has a number of agencies that can look into these things. They've got the FDLE, that's the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They look into corrupt politicians. There's the State Elections Commission. There's also the State Ethics Commission. So there are all these independent agencies that can take a look at these things. The problem is they all answer to the governor. So if you got the governor that doesn't want this to happen, he tamps it all down, and those agencies do nothing. So there's a whole list of agencies that should be protecting citizenry, but if it's a corrupt governor, you're not getting anywhere. It's going to get all shut down.
And there's no statute of limitation on murder. So
no, there's not.
No statute of limitation on murder.
That's correct.
So, and Brother Kyle, I want to make sure that you get all Mr. Mardell's information so we can get on this here ASAP. Mr. Mardell, it was great to have you and an honor to have you on the show, and we thank you for your time and coming on here to share your news, and we give our condolences to you. And we know this wasn't easy for you to do, but we thank you for coming on, sharing this, awareing the people about the murder and corruption that's in Florida. I see it every day on TV, but to actually be able to speak with someone who went through this right here and went through the corruption like I went through it, that's a great honor. And this here signifies, and this also lets listeners know that, man, corruption exists. These people are really killing us and getting away with it. They allowing people to kill us, and they getting away with it, or they killing us and they getting away with it. And this is a proven fact that corruption don't just happen to us. You see what I'm saying? It just don't happen to Black people. It happens to all form of people that if it's a bigger agenda involved in it, it's some form of a politician that can gain from it, then corruption can grow. Yeah. So it can happen to anybody, any race, at any time. So this is just not a Black thing. It's not a white thing. It's a people thing. Us against them against us. That's all it is.
The government should answer to us, and they don't. And that's the problem. And that's been the problem here, that there's been a pattern of corruption, and it just wasn't convenient for them. They had a different agenda, as you say. They were more concerned about getting elected than doing their jobs. And the result is I've fought this for 6.5 years alone. And, it's nice to have help. It's just nice to have teammates. Because
you have our help unconditionally, because I understand that this is going to make a big impact on the people. It's two murders involved. First, the number one murder was my pop, and your son murdered. Then I was tried almost 7. All this go hand in hand. The corruption line goes all the way to those that we claim that we put in office. And people, they don't understand that the reason why the corruption goes on, because they are not American. They're not here to protect you. Washington, D.C. is a territory. So a territory lacks power, authority, and jurisdiction because it's a part of a country, a nation that has jurisdiction over it. So when things, meaning that they enforce foreign laws against American people. So anything they do to us, they basically just gonna wipe it under the rug. And we wonder why don't nothing happen when these laws go to killing people, when they doing injustice to people, or when things like this happen. Your son has been murdered, and everybody that's on the police side, on her side, saying that it's murder, but she's saying that it's not. But ain't nothing happened. She don't have to give account to anyone. It's just This is why, because they are a foreign corporation. This is how Bayfield Truth Federal Government was started, because we won a federal case in Dallas, Texas, Northern District Court that proved that all courts lack power, authority, and jurisdiction. So this here is clear, self-explanatory of why all the injustice crimes go on, and they feel that they can just do it and get away with it, nothing happens. But it's a new government in town. Bayfield Truth.
That's what I've seen, and it's heartbreaking. There's just there's no logic to it. It's just self-dealing, and it's corruption, and it's been horrible to have to go through. And it's just inexcusable. It really is. And the governor is the only person that can replace a state attorney or move a case. And he, excuse me, he's done it with Democrats. He won't do it with a fellow Republican. So right off the bat. And I've listed some of the things he's done in chapter 8 or 9, I forget which, I'm sorry, but I've listed some of the people that he's removed from office for very, very minor things. But Amira Fox has ignored several murders. He doesn't dare take her out. He thinks he needs the votes down there for re-election.
Man, well, it's a ground to have you here, and it's an honor to unite with you, and we'll talk to you regularly to be updated, and we'll update you on things that we're doing. Maybe you'll have some people that that can help us out on certain things and things of that nature right there, and we'll go from there. We honor you to have your part of Bayfield Truth Federal Government, even just on this part, just exposing you and your sons, what happened with your son. So we honor and thank you for that. And my Minister of Defense, he'll be in touch with you first thing tomorrow. And we honor and thank you for being on our show.
As we hang up, Kyle, I will get you a copy of the book and all my contact info. You'll have that in 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it from both of you. Thank you for having me on. I very much appreciate it.
Nice meeting you again.
Thank you for coming on, sir.
All right,
Anytime. Thank you.
We'll be in touch, Mr. Mardell.
Look forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks. America, that was, you heard it, Mr. Mardell, Sandy Mardell of Florida. His son was killed. His son was named Ryan Mardell. He was killed. You heard all the things that's going on with him and the governor and the district attorney's office. And he reached out to Bayfield Truth Federal Government to me. He reached out to the chief officer of me. So Bayfield Truth Federal Government, we are federal government. We're here for the people of injustice of any kind, any color. We are here for injustice. So as you see, we're here. So we're going to get to move on it. I'm going to let y'all continue on with your night. Make sure you check out my clothing line, RCHPN. Make sure you link up with a real revolution, Bayfield Truth Federal Government of America. We offer security service. We offer protection. We we're doing all form of different things, tax service, everything. Y'all make sure y'all get in touch with us. Yeah, we had a lot of technical difficulties, a lot of things that I had planned to do on this show. The technical difficulties messed me up in regards to all that. So y'all be sure to share this. I'm your host, Rico Duke, for the Bayfield Truth TV show, your chief attorney of Bayfield Truth Federal Government of America. You already know I'm the son of the one and only Huey P. Newton, a revolution icon. Peace.